My name is Lee Maina from the Southern African region, Huawei office supporting fintech. And I also support a very interesting mix of customers ranging from banks, operators, fintech companies, amongst others. And today I'm more than privileged and honored. It's my first time for the Nigerian Fintech Week, so I'm excited to be here. And yes, I'll be discussing about the fintech paths to take. But most importantly, it's not just a path, but what is guiding us towards those specific paths, right? So we can never know the future without knowing where we are coming from. And just to paint a picture of where the fintech is coming from, this was sparked back in 2007 by Safaricom M-Pesa with the introduction of the first mobile money wallet. And what this did is that it sparked a wallet inclusion phase that also gave us a market space of about 5 billion US dollars. Fast forward, 2020, we ushered into the digital inclusion phase. And this was characterized by basically the emergence of smartphones, super applications, lifestyle payments, all endeavored around making the user experience for customers' payments very robust, right? And then looking at our crystal ball, what does it say about the future? All roads, all indications seem like they're leading us to a digital credit inclusion phase, right? Which is dubbed to give us about 60 billion in terms of marketplace, right? And what it does, simple, is that fast forward to 2030, when it hits its peak, how will that future look like? Three things that we're actually clear on. One is that lending will become the anchor service. I'm quite sure you've already seen a lot of credit solutions mushrooming into the Republic every single other day, right? So it will become the anchor, and it will become a catalyst for the last inclusion in terms of the last mile for the wallet services as well as also the payments. And this is not because of lack of options for this set of customers who will be the late adopters, but it's majorly because this will be the only way where they can be able to maintain a good enough credit limit or a credit reference for them to be able to consume other services. So they will be forced to come online. Second thing that will happen, it's not going to be a standalone solution. It's actually going to be embedded in user experiences and in user journeys. When you need it, that's when it comes in. And we've already started seeing some indications from some of the market leaders like Safaricom M-Pesa, who again launched a very intuitive overdraft service embedded on their mobile money service. When a customer needs it, they consume it. And what has this done? Because it's very purposeful, it's actually meant 4.4 million customers who would have ideally been disconnected or disengaged from using fintech services can now extend their services or extend their payments or even extend their power to consume within the ecosystem and powered an extra 800 million transactions. What does also that mean is that in that future when it's embedded, customers will not actually get credit in terms of cash. This is always going to be value moving from one party to another party. And how will that happen? More than $400 million in M-Pesa being given out each and every single month, and customers never get to touch it. It just moves from one entity to another, and they're okay with it and to pay for it. And then lastly, the credit score will become much more objective, much more precise, much more real-time, and it will be based on how we're using the services and the real lifestyle situations around ourselves. But 2030, who will be the winners, right? We're already starting to see the DNA and the pieces coming together. So who will be the winners at that point? It will be the parties who've got the most valuable, relevant, realistic, and authenticated holistic information around the customers. That will be the party who will also always know how to embed or to offer a service that is suitable to the customer, suitable to the right customer, and suitable for the right time to the customers. And this data, I know it's been discussed in very many forums, but it's becoming no longer one of those nice-to-have things. It's actually very vital for the future of mobile money and also the future of fintech. Three things it's going to do. One, it's always going to be pivotal in terms of how we are able to authenticate the customers and verify who they are. Identity is crucial. Second thing, it's going to give us a more precise credit score in terms of credit assessment for each and every single customer who wants to consume the services. Thirdly, it's always going to be the best way for us to be able to reach to our customers, embedding or offering us or upselling a service that is most relevant to them, because at this stage, there'll be so much clutter in terms of people offering online services. And then lastly, and which is the most, I'd say, powerful tool we could ever use, it will be the one that actually forms or informs how we innovate services, making sure we're actually shooting in the right path for fintech development. Secondly, it will also make sure we know how to efficiently deploy our capital as well as our resources when it comes to investing in the fintech space. And what will enable us do us, right? What we are saying is that this set of rich data that we actually require for us to be ready for that credit inclusion is not readily available. It's scattered across different sectors, different entities. And what that does is that it limits us in terms of being able to credit include our friends or our customers or our clients. So what will need to happen is that everyone needs to come online. So we need concerted efforts around not just fintech players and stakeholders, around also regulators in terms of how do we bring every single critical party online? How do we actually motivate them to be able to continue carrying out transactions online and staying online, conducting business online, basically, for us to be able to generate that critical data that will be required at that particular point? And of course, still, at the end of the day, is having the right set of tools that will make us efficiently and effectively be able to exploit all this data that is being generated for us to upsell many services. Oh, it's that side, right? So let's bring this closer home. Out of the 35 million MSMEs who basically power our cash-heavy economy, only 3% of them can access capital or basically borrowing from any formal financial source. And main reason always given, lack of enough data around this customer or around this particular entity to give them a loan. But this client is always transacting. He's always saving, but maybe just not at a bank, but he's doing it offline or within other smaller fintech spaces. Bring that also to the east side, basically the customers. We still see only 2% of your customers can still be able to get a loan from a formal source. Same reason again, lack of data, yet always transacting from morning till evening. But not just transacting online or transacting with a bank or with a big fintech player. They're transacting in cash, and they already have their ecosystem. So this just tells us one thing. We need to broaden the landscape data in Nigeria. We need to bring all these people online, basically go beyond trying to solve that payment collection and payment experiences, because I looked from one of the slides is that we are very heavy in innovating around the payments and collection piece, right? There is no amount of credit cards or POSs or QRs we can give these particular MSMEs that will bring them online, apart from going deeper, analyzing, interrogating, what are some of the problems they're facing beyond collection, because truth be told, they're actually happy and more happier to even collect physical cash because of quick liquidity, right? It means quick liquidity for themselves. So we need to find out what are some of the challenges they're facing as a business. Let's try to solve them, and maybe we could get them online. And when we do this matchmaking, probably then we could have the opportunity to enable, generate the required data, and then start exploiting it with layered services. And so the main question, what do we need to innovate? What are the new tech paths? Now, to answer that question, it will give us also the opportunity. What we need to do is to look at the landscape a little bit more differently. At the center, there is an opportunity for enablement of all these players, MSMEs, all of them, and you can only be able to do that through super applications. So that's one area we need to invest in, where we converge the traffic, converge the customer, authenticate them with nice digital authentication tools, and then on the northbound, we look at the lifestyle services and how they consume them offline. We recreate them online with the use of mini applications that will integrate into those super apps, right? Just meaning that the same way a customer uses the service offline, they will be able to also use it online, right? And then we get to use a new player, the developer. We need to localize these solutions, not copy them from other markets. So we need to enable the developers with low-code, no-code development environments for them to quickly be able to develop end-to-end solutions. MSMEs with super intelligent supply chain and enterprise solutions. On the other side, we connect these enterprises to demand side, right? Through mini applications. And also think, how do we build tools that enforce loyalty and precise marketing? And then, once all this data has been generated, how do we exploit it and make use of it to embed other financial services such as finance, lending, savings, insurance? These are the areas for the next opportunity. Closing it in, what's the DNA that will be required for us to have a data-driven innovation path, right? 3 principles need to change. One perspective we need to change is simple. We need to look at enablement, not just collection. Let's go super industry-centric, super localized. Every industry, agriculture, insurance, enterprise, every single one of them. Let's look at how we can digitize them to bring them online, not just collection. Second thing we need to do is to localize these solutions, right? Because how they've been used elsewhere might not be used here, right? Let's localize it during using developer communities. Let's make use of them. Secondly, agile, decentralization, and of course, leveraging on partnerships. Second principle, we start collecting the data from the customer and viewing them as one individual, regardless of whichever entry point they come through or whichever service they're actually going to consume. Let's view them as one. Let's map out what are the critical data points we need to collect from these customers, where do we need them from, and then let's start building the customer profile to enable that. And then lastly, the infrastructure. We need to build for scale. This means we need to go cloud, right? So that we can enjoy all the cloud benefits with full containerization, microservices, all the way till decentralized architecture. Secondly, open, because all this data we're going to get from, it's going to be from 3 sources, either derived from the services, either purchased from another entity, or even glanced from another network that is partnering with you. So your platforms need to be as open as possible. And then, of course, in this era, security is vital. One bad mouthing of your service, and you're dead in the water. And the most problematic thing is that we are going into a space, into an environment with which we do not really understand, all of us. So there's always some new security concerns moving on. And this is not just around penetration, but heck, if we're actually going to power a promotion tool, then really hope people cannot be able to game your loyalty programs or anything like that. That is still now being listed as one of the trust areas to watch. And then lastly, build for massive transactions, because now we are moving to a place where we are no longer going to be servicing maybe 100 or 1,000 nairas, but very small margins, very small transaction values of millions of transactions. And unfortunately, even for people like banks, is that a customer is always happy to wait at the ATM for 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and they've got no problem. They're happy to wait at the branch for 30 minutes before they're served. But I don't know what gets to them when they come to the digital environment. Immediately a transaction starts to take more than 5 seconds, they are very impatient. So unless our engine is able to meet that expectation, then we are in trouble. That's one, right? And then closing it. I couldn't close it without just plugging in some marketing, right? So one of the things is that we've deployed our fintech solutions in more than 30 sites, right? And we pride in ourselves having actually the biggest fintech brand in Africa, that is M-Pesa, which we power with Vodacom and M-Pesa and Safaricom across all the markets. We, again, are happy enough with one of the biggest payment solutions in Myanmar, Burma, where we've actually turned a bank, traditional bank, to be the biggest payments provider within the digital space, or even looking far east, Pakistan, JazzCash, where we've again held the biggest mobile money ecosystem there. And it's this set of learnings, not just technology, but around people behavior, around consumption of services, which we've also been able to package and cascade them to the local markets. And here, we've been able to bring such learnings to banks such as KCB Bank in Eastern and Central Africa, helping them decentralize innovation away from the core banking system to an environment which is now easier to operate and fast for them to compete with other fintech companies, right? And we bring that also to West Africa with GCB Bank doing the same. And it's this set of learnings that we'll be more than happy to cascade to you listen to you, and also see how we can opportunity for collaboration. My name is Lee Minor. We have an exhibition hall booth just in the other place. If you want to progress this discussion, we are more than happy to listen to you. Thank you.